Do you have a story to share with the world? Of course you do. We all have stories to share. An Anchor podcast allows you to share your interests in a way that connects to others all across the globe. If you have been considering starting your own podcast and don't know where to begin, Anchor makes it easy to record, edit, and publish with the click of a button. You can even add music. Whether it's crime dramas, self-improvement, paranormal adventures, or tips about parenting, you too can share your unique imprint on the world. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. You've got this. I believe in you. Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. I hope everyone is feeling amazing and on top of the world. And if you aren't, then you're in the right place, because I'm going to be offering you a valued technique that has worked so much for me to help remove subconscious blocks and stagnant energy within my body. And it's also helped me calm my anxiety and panic attacks that I used to have. And it's been really successful with me. So I'm hoping that this will be a tool that you can pop into your healing toolbox as well. And it'll be something that will offer you in the moment something that you can use to help you overcome whatever situation that you may be going through. So let's go back and just do a little refresher on what energy is, right? Okay, so energy is the ability or the capacity to do work. So when we eat, our bodies transform that energy into work. When we run or we walk, we burn that energy in our bodies. And we can, when we interact with others, we also know that we can pick up or give off our own energy, because everything is energy. I like to always talk about the iceberg effect. And if you aren't familiar with the iceberg effect, it's basically when you have certain things that are on the surface that we see, like you may have an interaction with someone and they appear to be angry. Okay, so on the surface, when you first meet them, they appear to be angry. But underneath, once you start to peel away those layers, underneath the water where the iceberg is, there are other emotions and other feelings that are actually deeper, or the root cause of that anger. It could be pain, it could be suffering, it could be hurt, it could be shame, it could be guilt. And when we actually start to dig deeper underneath the surface of our emotion that we see from the front standing of our actual initial emotion, we can find a place of deeper healing. And when we go deeper into this healing is when we actually start to see some pretty significant transitions, not only in our physical body, but also in our emotional body, and as well as our spiritual body too. So there is a certain part in the brain called the amygdala. All right, the amygdala is a little small almond-shaped mass of nuclei that's located really deep in the temporal lobe of the brain. And it is responsible for the autonomic responses associated with fear, arousal, and emotional stimulation. And it has also been linked to some disorders such as anxiety, different phobias, and addiction. It functions as the body's alarm system for that fight, flight, or freeze response. So whenever we get into a situation where we feel fear or anxiety, our body makes a choice, okay? It makes a choice to either fight back, it makes a choice to flee, or it makes a choice to completely freeze up, okay? So ask yourself, in those situations, what does my body do the most? What is it that you do the most? Okay, I think for me it's flee. I think when I get into those situations, I just want to flee because I'm an empath, and I don't want to fight. I don't want to have I can't even say the word confrontation, and I don't freeze up. Usually I move, I get out of there. Okay, so I'm fleeing, I'm getting out of there. But then after I flee, I freeze up a little bit. Okay, so our bodies respond in different ways to different situations, and the amygdala is that central hub in the brain that is causing that reaction in our body. So when we go into that state of of mind, it can create trauma. It can create an energetic blockage of trauma within our body. And if we don't release it properly, then it can cause us a lot of disharmony and unbalance. If you see animals after they suffer some sort of a trauma, you'll see them shake, okay? You'll see them shake. That's a natural state of releasing trauma. Well, unfortunately, humans, when we get into those fearful situations or into those anxious moments, we don't tap into that natural healing shaking that will release that trauma within our body. We actually, most of the time, will suppress it and repress it. And when we do that, it eventually bubbles up to the surface at some point in a physical pain or an emotional pain or a negative thought pattern that can keep going on in our mind. So when we are releasing trauma, it's important that we move that energy through our body because it'll get stuck. It'll find a nice happy place in our body. It could be in our lower back, could be in our shoulder, could be in the form of headaches, and it'll cause this absolute disharmony and discomfort within our system. So one of the techniques that I have learned that has been really instrumental in helping me move this energy through my body is EFT tapping, also known as the emotional freedom technique. So EFT is a stress relief exercise based on combined principles of ancient Chinese acupressure, okay, so needleless, not acupuncture, but acupressure, and it's modern psychology as well. So it's a really neat combination of Eastern and Western medicine. It focuses on releasing those emotional attachments and energy blockages pertaining to a thought or situation, alleviating a physical and or an emotional ailment. So EFT has been used for more than 5,000 years, and it has been validated in more than 60 different scientific studies. So it's not just something that, was made up recently and doesn't have any scientific backing to it. It actually does have scientific backing to it. So what does EFT tapping look like? We have these acupressure points throughout our body that are little hubs for our energy. And they're like little reset buttons that when we touch them or we tap them, it starts to signal different alarms in our body to start moving things and get things, a little bit more in flow. So tapping with the fingertips on specific acupressure points of the body while focusing on a negative emotion or a physical sensation can help to calm that autonomic nervous system and rewire the brain to respond in healthier ways. And it can restore the balance of the body and the balance of that energetic system. So there's two different sides to our central nervous system, our autonomic nervous system. You've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight, flight, or freeze response. That's the response that goes off when we're in a state of fear or anxiety. And we also have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest and digest. That's the part that we want to be in. That's the nervous system that we want turned on because we're in a state of balance, a state of alignment, and a state of peace and calm, right? So EFT tapping is kind of like peeling an onion. The more you peel, the more you heal, right? And we all know that the more you feel, the more you heal. But with EFT tapping, you're just going down layer by layer by layer to find that root cause of that particular ailment or problem that you may be struggling with. So you may be initially presenting with anxiety. You come and you're like, I have anxiety. We start tapping on that anxiety and we realize that there's a deeper emotion under there, maybe fear, okay? And then we keep tapping on that fear and then we go underneath that to heartache. Okay, and then we keep tapping on that and we realize that the root cause could be abuse or rejection as a child or failure. There could be something right at the meat of that onion, right, that is really causing some of those outer emotions that we may be having. So EFT tapping is gentle and it strips away layer by layer like an onion each issue to get to that underlying issue. And as we tap away each concern, we start to feel like we're breaking free of the energy of those fears in order to establish a new belief system around that particular issue or situation that we may be struggling with. So what does the EFT process look like? All right, so you have what's called the MPI, and that's what we're looking for, the most pressing issue, all right? And that is what is bothering you the most right now, and what is it that you need to tap on or that you'd like to tap on? And then we always ask, what is the SUDS, the Subject Unit Distress Scale? And that is used to measure the success of the tapping session. So I always like to start off when I'm doing a session with someone by asking them on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank this issue? Where would you rank your anxiety or your pain? And if it's a 10, we're trying to get that down to a 0, all right? So as we go through the tapping process, I'm asking the person, where are we at? Okay, where are we at? Have we gone from a 10 to a 5? That's progress, all right? So we do like to use that as a scale because there is something called the apex problem, which is where we consciously, people will expect healing to be really hard and to take a long time. And they will come up with another explanation as to why this has happened so fast. So we like to make sure that we measure it with a scale of 1 to 10. And then we'll start with a setup statement. So we say this 3 times on the karate chop point, which is right here. So if you think of karate, this is the karate chop point right here. And it really can be any statement, but it can start with, even though I have this problem, stress, anxiety, pain, whatever it may be, I deeply and completely accept how I feel now. So we start with that setup point, all right? And we say that 3 times. And really, it doesn't have to be the same statement 3 times, but it can be kind of similar. Or you can just say, even though I feel all of this pain throughout my body, I deeply and completely love myself. So it's like starting off with just honoring yourself and acknowledging what the issue is. It's setting that statement up. And then we'll go through and do the tapping throughout the tapping points. And we start off with different reminder phrases. And those are like an abbreviated name of what that setup statement is. So all this stress, all this pain, all this suffering, whatever it may be, we go through each of those points. And I'll go through the points with you here in a second. So as we go through those points, what we are doing is we are moving the energy through our system, and we are repatterning or reprogramming the subconscious mind because we've gotten stuck. It's kind of like a record player, right? So if a record player starts skipping and gets stuck, you get annoyed, right? You want to pick up the needle and move it. So that's kind of what we're doing with EFT tapping. We're picking up the needle and we're moving it past that point of being stuck so we can continue to move forward and listen to the rest of the song, right? So once we do that, we can then, once we've gotten through the whole negative statements, and then we want to go ahead and do a positive focus forward. So that's where we start to repattern the brain in a positive way to think more positively, efficiently, and more productive. So there are different methods to tapping, and it really depends on the person's situation and what they're in when I am working with them and when those emotions start to arise. So there's the choice method, and the choice method is I choose to. You always start out with I choose to. I choose to remain calm. I choose to let go of fear. I choose to not let this anxiety control me. Whatever that issue is, you choose to let it go. And I choose to is a more positive, reinforcing, powering statement. There is a movie script technique. So that's basically if you were to run a movie in your mind, what would that look like? What would that movie look like? So if it was a trauma, you could, talk about that in a different way. So that's really just kind of disassociating your situation and putting it into a different perspective and applying it to a movie scene, which can be very helpful because we don't want to, in EFT, you don't want to go back and re-traumatize the person because that's the last thing that you want to do. You want to eliminate the energy behind that heightened emotion. You aren't going to eliminate the memory when you do the tapping, but you're eliminating the energy behind that emotion. So there's also another technique called tell the story. So that is, what senses did you experience during that particular event? Tell us about that. Smell, taste, touch, hearing, etc. Those types of things. So it's like telling a very detailed story. Touch and breathe is another one. So this is specifically for people who have a difficult time with the tapping. Some people get really sensitive, especially those who have fibromyalgia or autism. They have a really hard time wanting to tap, so they can just touch. They can just touch and breathe. And really what you're doing is you're just creating a connection, all right? You're creating an energetic connection there with the acupressure point, which is causing that energy to start moving throughout the system. And the last technique that I was going to share is called tearless trauma. And I've used this one several times with some clients, and it's actually been very successful. So you identify the traumatic event, and then you would guess that emotional intensity without re-traumatizing that person. And then you'll work through that tapping process and have them stop to imagine the incident again, and then you would rate their SUDS, the scale of 1 to 10. So it's basically just as they're telling the story and they're going through it, we are tapping on it and it's moving that energy through pretty quickly. It's quite successful. So the more specific that you can be with EFT tapping, the better that it works. So if you can really dive in there and be pretty specific, it can be very beneficial to you. So what are the tapping points? So there's several different ones. So there's a much more lengthy version of tapping, and I usually do the more shortened version, but there's actually an even more shortened version than the one that I do. So I'm just going to share with you today the one that I do, which is the very common technique that they use with EFT tapping. And it starts out, like I said, with a karate chop point. So you'll start there. And then I move right here, right above the eyebrows. Now you can use one hand, either hand. Some people use both hands. It really doesn't matter, because all it really is working is the acupressure point and with your intention and trying to move that energy through. So don't get caught up with, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And you don't have to be specifically on the point. As long as you're in the region and you're setting that intention to heal, it's going to work. It's going to move that through. So you've got here, and then you've got on your temple right here, underneath your eye, underneath your nose, underneath your lips here, okay? And then right here on the collarbone. I like to incorporate the thymus gland. The thymus gland is so important. It is the hub of our immune system. So I have noticed I could even do a whole tapping session with someone and we just sit here in the thymus gland, and you can feel things moving through your system when you tap on your thymus gland. And it's right kind of located, if you think of King Kong, when he goes like this, it's located right in that area right there. So if you're in the state of a panic attack, this is one of the best places that you can tap. So you can breathe through your nose, hold for a count of 6, and then breathe out. And in your mind, you can say, I am calm. I am relaxed. I am safe. And notice yourself start to slow down. You'll start to slow down. So this is a nice technique that you can use in the moment when you're starting to feel anxiety or you're starting to feel some panic setting in. I use this one quite often. I like this one. And you'll notice that you'll start to feel some tingling sensations, and your heart will start to, get back to normal. It won't be beating so hard like it will when you're in a panic attack or in that situation. So that's a great one. And then you're going to go up under the arm, kind of up under the armpit and down right here. All right. And those are the ones that I use. Now you can incorporate your fingers. You can actually go on the side of your thumb here, the side of your fingers, all the way down, and then back to the karate chop. So it's up to you how much tapping you want to do. I know that some practitioners will actually incorporate the liver as well, or the belly button area. So it's really up to you where you want to tap those points, and you can do a little bit more research on it too to see which points are can move energy a little bit quicker. And I love the thymus. It's one of my favorite ones. My instructor actually uses back behind right at the edge of your skull, right where your brain stem is. She taps back there, and I've incorporated that too with a few clients, and it's been successful to move some things through too, because the atlas is that very first vertebra right under the skull, and that kind of holds a lot of nerves in it, and it's a central hub as well for our autonomic immune system to kind of go up through that brainstem and into that amygdala. So that's another point that if you want to incorporate in your tapping. So are you guys ready to do some tapping? I put a tapping together specifically for anxiety because I thought that would be a nice generalized tapping to do. But if you want to see more tapping templates, then you can visit my YouTube channel at The Soul Cafe. And you can visit my website as well, www.thesoulcafe.org. And that'll guide you to my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook page too. So if you're looking for some other ideas for tapping, you can check that out. So we're gonna just do, like I said, we're just gonna do a generalized tapping. And I thought it would be nice to do one around pain and suffering in the world, because I'm sure a lot of you who are watching could be empaths. And when I put this tapping together, it was something that I did personally for myself because I was seeing so much pain and suffering in the world, and I was soaking it up like a sponge, and it was creating anxiety within my system. So I thought it would be beneficial to go ahead and do this. So stay tuned. We're going to go ahead and tap together. Okay, are you guys ready to just tap out this anxiety that we're feeling? All right, let's do this. So as we go through the tapping, this is kind of like Simon Says. We're going to go back to kindergarten for a second. As I tap, you're going to tap in the same spot, all right? And I'm going to say the statement, and then you're going to repeat the statement. So I'm going to allow some time in between the statements for you to repeat the statements. And I do apologize if I don't allow enough time. I'm trying to fit all of this into a 30-minute program. So if you have to pause it, then feel free to pause the video. I want to make sure that you can say those statements and feel comfortable that you are, connecting with your own body and moving that energy through. So let's go ahead and take a nice deep breath in through our nose for a count of 5. We're going to hold for 5. And release for 6. The reason why we release for a little bit longer is because it helps to calm and reset the autonomic nervous system. So anytime you're doing some deep breathing, you want to make sure that when you inhale, it's a little bit shorter than when you exhale. It's basically signaling the autonomic nervous system that you're in a place of rest and digest, okay? So let's take one more breath in. All right, so follow after me. Even though all of this anxiety seems so overwhelming at times, I just don't know what to do. I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though on a scale of 1 to 10, there are days when my anxiety is a 10, I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself now. Even though this anxiety feels so unbearable at times, especially when I see what's going on in the world, I deeply and completely love and honor myself. Okay, so let's move here above the eyebrow. All this anxiety, all this anxiety, all this anxiety. It is so overwhelming. Sometimes it's hard to sleep or even focus at times. I fear for my safety and the safety of my loved ones. This world can be so scary at times. And I feel out of control. All this anxiety, all this anxiety, all this anxiety. It's absolutely unbearable. It takes over my life sometimes. And it's taking a toll on me. It's so hard to even turn on the television when all you see is pain and suffering in the world. Why is there so much pain and suffering in the world? I want to fix it, but I can't. I wouldn't even know where to begin. So then I just try to ignore it. But then the fear creeps up. And that causes me to panic. And that makes it hard for me to breathe sometimes. I try to shut out all of this anxiety, but it's just too overwhelming. It's exhausting. I am so sick and tired of this anxiety. All this anxiety. This anxiety in my body, in my mind, and in my spirit. Okay, so let's stop for a minute. Let's check in with our bodies and see where we are. And where are we on a scale of 1 to 10? If we started off at, say, a 6 or a 7, or maybe even an 8 or a 9, where are we at now? Have we lowered it at all? If you haven't lowered it at all, then I would suggest going back through and tapping on that again. And you don't have to use my statements. You can actually say your own statements. So as you go through and tap, intuitively, you will begin to pick up on what's going on in your body. So this is just a template or a guide to help show you how to tap and how to use the setup statement. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back in and do those positive reaffirming statements. All right. So let's start off here at karate chop point again and take another deep breath in for 5. Hold. Okay. I am calm. I am relaxed. I am safe. I am free from all worry. Most of my anxiety is created in my mind. And that's okay because I am calm. There's no need to worry because I am safe. I am protected. I release myself from this anxiety now. This anxiety has absolutely no power over me. It has no power over me. I command this anxiety to leave my mind, my body, and my spirit now. This anxiety has no power over me. This anxiety has no power over me. I command this anxiety to leave my body now. I command this anxiety to leave my body now. For I am safe, I am calm, I am relaxed, I am protected. There is no need for me to worry anymore. I shut off my sympathetic nervous system now. I shut off my fight, flight, or freeze response now. Thank you for what you do for me. You keep me safe. You keep me protected. But I don't need to have you on all the time. I command my parasympathetic nervous system to turn on now. I embraced the rest and digest system in my body now. I breathe in rest. And I let go of all anxiety now. Okay, guys, let's stop and take a deep breath in. Check in with ourselves, see where we are. How are we feeling? Did you feel any sensations in your body? Did you feel still stuck or stagnant? Did some of those comments I made resonate with you? Did you release it all? Did you start to cry? Maybe you laughed. Funny thing is I've actually had people pass gas in the middle of the EFT session. So don't feel weird if you actually did that. That's normal. That is a sign that the energy is moving through your system and it wants out, right? It just wants out because that's stagnant energy that no longer serves you. So let it out. If you didn't feel anything during that tapping session, then I would suggest you go back through again and do it. Sometimes we are very stuck. We can be very stuck and very stagnant, and that subconscious mind can be very stubborn. So if you didn't notice much of a shift, I would definitely go back and tap again and maybe use some of your own statements, some of your own setup statements to really dive deeper into whatever the root cause is of that anxiety. Now, as we tap through the anxiety, did you notice any shifts? Did some images come up? Some images of maybe childhood or fears or different situations or events that maybe you had gone through where you had suffered some trauma? What you're going to want to do now is go back and tap on that, right? We talked about the different types of tapping. You could go back through and do the movie script or do the tearless trauma. And if you want to find out more information about those types of tapping techniques, then I would encourage you to research them because I'm just here to act as a vessel to share with you some of the things that I've learned and to allow you to create your own healing toolbox in a way that is successful and beneficial to you.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT Tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.